My name is Isabella Chun. I'm 16 years old, and on the evening of September 3rd, I died at Riverside High School during volleyball practice. I never thought much about death before. I was just a regular junior from Portland who stressed about AP classes and whether I'd get into a good college. My parents immigrated from Taiwan when I was little, and they worked incredibly hard to give me and my younger sister Emma every opportunity. Dad runs a small accounting firm, and Mom teaches kindergarten. I was the type of student who color-coded my planner and had my next 3 years mapped out. Volleyball was my passion. I'd been playing since middle school and dreamed of earning a scholarship. That Tuesday evening, we were scrimmaging against our JV team when everything changed. I remember spiking the ball and landing wrong. But it wasn't my ankle that was the problem. Suddenly, I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was being crushed in a vice. I'd never had any health problems before, so when I collapsed on the gym floor, everyone thought I was just dehydrated or overheated. Coach Martinez knelt beside me, telling me to take deep breaths, but I couldn't. The world started spinning, colors bleeding together like wet paint. I could hear my teammates calling my name, someone yelling for the school nurse, but their voices sounded far away and distorted. Then, everything went quiet. Not the empty kind of quiet, but a profound stillness that felt alive somehow. The pain in my chest vanished completely, replaced by the most incredible lightness. I found myself floating above the scene, watching paramedics work on my body while my teammates huddled together, crying. I tried to tell them I was okay, that I felt better than I'd ever felt in my life, but they couldn't hear me. Emma had been picked up by our neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, and was standing in the hallway with tears streaming down her face. I wanted to comfort her, but I couldn't reach her. Then I felt a gentle pull, like being drawn upward by invisible hands. The school gymnasium grew smaller below me, then Portland, then the mountains and forests of Oregon. I was moving through what looked like layers of golden light, each one warmer and more welcoming than the last. The transition felt like stepping from a cold room into warm sunshine. Ahead of me was the most beautiful light I'd ever seen. Not harsh or blinding, but welcoming, like the light of home when you've been traveling for a long time. And there he was, Jesus. I knew immediately who he was, though he looked different from the pale, European paintings I'd seen in churches. His skin was olive-toned, his hair dark and wavy, his hands strong like someone who had worked with them. But his eyes, they held such depth, such love, that I felt completely known and completely safe. Isabella, he said, and hearing my name in his voice was like coming home after being lost. I dropped to my knees, overwhelmed. Jesus, I don't understand. I wasn't even that religious. My family goes to church sometimes, but I always had so many questions, so many doubts. He knelt beside me and took my hands. His touch was real, warm, more solid than anything I'd experienced on earth. Questions aren't the enemy of faith, dear one. They're often the beginning of it. I've been waiting for you to find me. Am I dead? I asked. Your body is between worlds right now, he said gently, but I brought you here because there's something important you need to see and understand. Something about what's coming that your generation needs to know. He helped me to my feet, and suddenly we were standing on what looked like a vast observation deck overlooking all of creation. Below us, I could see the earth turning slowly, beautiful and fragile in the darkness of space. Isabella, I'm going to show you 3 things that will happen before you graduate college, he said, not to frighten you, but to prepare you and others like you. Your generation will face challenges no previous generation has encountered, but you'll also have opportunities to show love and faith in ways that will transform the world. The first vision opened before us like a window into the future. I saw massive wildfires sweeping across the western United States, bigger than anything we'd seen before. Cities evacuating, forests burning for months, the sky dark with smoke across multiple states. But I also saw something beautiful, teenagers like me organizing relief efforts, using social media to coordinate help, creating networks of support that connected communities across the country. The earth is groaning under the weight of neglect, Jesus explained. Climate patterns will intensify rapidly, but watch how your generation responds. I saw young people leading cleanup efforts, developing new technologies, pressuring leaders to act. I saw my own sister, Emma, older now, working as an environmental scientist, part of a team that developed breakthrough solutions for carbon capture. I saw teenagers around the world refusing to accept that their future had to be dark, choosing hope and action over despair. The second vision was more disturbing. I saw a new kind of conflict, not traditional war, but cyber attacks that brought down power grids, communication systems, even water treatment plants. Young people unable to access the internet, their phones useless, the digital world they'd grown up in suddenly gone. The systems your generation is grown up depending on will prove fragile, Jesus said. But in this disruption, you'll discover strengths you didn't know you had. I watched as teenagers who had been glued to screens began talking face to face again, forming real communities, developing skills with their hands. I saw young people becoming leaders in their neighborhoods, teaching older adults how to cope without technology, organizing community gardens, and sharing resources. The crisis forced a return to human connection that transformed entire communities. The third vision was the hardest to watch. I saw a new pandemic, different from COVID-19, spreading rapidly among young people, schools closing again. But this time the fear was specifically about teenagers and young adults. I saw isolation, depression, fear taking hold of my generation in ways that cut deeper than any virus. This sickness will target the young, Jesus said sadly, but it won't just be a physical illness. It will be used to divide families, to increase control, to steal hope from those who should be full of dreams. But even in this dark vision, I saw light breaking through. I saw young people refusing to be isolated, finding creative ways to stay connected that didn't depend on government permission or technology. I saw teenagers leading prayer groups in parks, organizing underground schools, creating art and music that brought hope. I saw my generation refusing to let fear win. In each of these trials, Jesus said, turning to face me, your generation will face a choice. You can retreat into despair and blame, or you can step forward into the calling I have for you. What calling? I asked. He smiled, and it was like watching the sun rise. To be the generation that chooses love over fear, community over isolation, faith over doubt. You've grown up with tools previous generations never had: instant global communication, access to all human knowledge, the ability to organize and mobilize faster than ever before. But more importantly, you've grown up in a world where the old systems are clearly failing, which gives you the freedom to build something better. He showed me another vision than young people around the world leading movements of compassion and justice, but grounded in spiritual truth rather than just political ideology. I saw teenagers who had survived near-death experiences like mine becoming bridges between the spiritual and physical worlds, helping others understand that there was more to existence than what they could see. Your generation will face the birth pains of a new world, Jesus explained. It will be difficult, but you're being prepared for it. Every challenge you face in high school, every disappointment, every moment you feel overwhelmed, they're all building the strength you'll need. He placed his hands on my shoulders, and I felt such overwhelming love that I thought I might dissolve from the intensity of it. Isabella, I'm not just showing you what's coming. I'm calling you to be part of the solution. You and young people like you will lead the way to healing, not just for the environment, not just for society, but for human hearts. But I'm nobody special, I protested. I'm just a high school student who worries about grades and whether people like me. That's exactly why you're perfect for this, he said with a gentle laugh. I don't usually choose the ones who think they're ready. I choose the ones who know they need me. We walked together through that place of light and peace, and he showed me more how prayer creates ripples across dimensions, how every act of love sends out waves that touch lives in ways we can't imagine, how the seemingly small choices teenagers make every day actually shape the spiritual climate of the entire world. Your generation prays differently than your parents and grandparents, he told me. You don't always use traditional words or kneel in pews, but when you cry out for justice, when you demand that adults do better, when you refuse to accept that the world has to stay broken, those are prayers too. And I hear every one. I felt myself beginning to fade from that place, being pulled back toward my body. Jesus, I don't want to leave, and I'm scared about what's coming. What if I'm not strong enough? He cupped my face in his hands, and his eyes held such tenderness it made me cry. You're never alone, Isabella. When you feel overwhelmed by the enormity of what's ahead, remember this moment. Remember that you've seen the end of the story, and love wins. Remember that every challenge your generation faces is also an opportunity to show the world what I can do through willing hearts. What should I tell people? Tell them that the future isn't something that happens to them, it's something they create with every choice they make. Tell them that the problems they see in the world aren't too big for me to solve through them. Tell them that their voice matters, their prayers matter, their actions matter more than they can possibly imagine. As the light began to dim and I felt myself being drawn back toward Earth, I heard his final words. Tell them their generation isn't broken or lost. You're the ones I've been preparing for such a time as this. I woke up in the hospital with my parents and Emma beside my bed. The doctors said I'd had sudden cardiac arrest due to a previously unknown genetic condition, something that affects about 1 in every 5,000 teenagers. They said it was a miracle that the paramedics had been able to revive me after I'd been clinically dead for 6 minutes. Recovery was slow. I had to have surgery to implant a defibrillator, and the doctor said I probably wouldn't be able to play competitive volleyball anymore. That should have devastated me, but somehow it didn't. The things that had seemed so important before, making varsity, getting a perfect GPA, impressing college admissions officers, they just didn't carry the same weight anymore. When I told my parents about my experience, Mom cried and said she'd been praying the entire time I was unconscious. Dad, who had always been skeptical about spiritual things, was quiet for a long time. Then he said, maybe there are more things in heaven and earth than I understood. Emma was the one who really got it. She listened to everything I shared about what was coming, and instead of being scared, she got determined. So we need to get ready, she said simply. Not just with emergency supplies, but with our hearts and our skills and our faith. Going back to school was weird. Some classmates treated me like I was fragile, others like I was some kind of spiritual guru. A few thought I was making the whole thing up for attention. But gradually, I found the people who were hungry for something real, something deeper than just getting through each day. We started meeting informally at first, just a few of us talking about life, about purpose, about how to prepare for an uncertain future. We called ourselves the Bridge Generation because we felt like we were standing between the world that was ending and the world that was being born. The group grew slowly but steadily. We're up to about 25 students now from 3 different high schools. We don't just talk about spiritual things, we learn practical skills too. Gardening, basic mechanics, first aid, conflict resolution. We practice what it means to be a community that can support each other through anything. Most importantly, we pray, not the formal, ritual kind of prayer I grew up with, but the real, honest, desperate kind. We pray for our families, our schools, our world. We pray for wisdom to know how to prepare for what's coming. We pray for courage to face it with faith instead of fear. If you're a teenager reading this, I want you to know something. You're not just marking time until you become an adult. You're not just supposed to sit quietly while grown-ups figure out how to fix the world. You have a voice, a calling, a purpose that's needed right now. The challenges coming to our generation are real, and they're going to test us in ways previous generations haven't experienced. But we're not victims of circumstances beyond our control. We're the ones being prepared to build something better from the pieces of what's breaking down. Jesus didn't show me these visions to scare me. He showed them to me so I could tell you, we're not facing the end of the world. We're facing the birth of a new one, and we get to help deliver it. My name is Isabella Chun. I'm 16 years old. I died for 6 minutes and met Jesus, and he showed me that our generation isn't the problem. We're the solution. The question isn't whether we're strong enough for what's coming. The question is whether we're willing to step into who we were created to be. The future is in our hands. Let's make it beautiful.